Kia ora e te iwi, and welcome to The Chew.
The Chew.
Where we chew the fat off random kaupapa. Anei ahau ko taika māua ko kori.
Kia ora.
Mātou ko Jackie Kukutai. Kia ora, Jackie.
Kia ora e korua.
So yeah, we're privileged to have Whaia Jackie on the show with us today. She has connections to Te Whānau Apanui, Waikato Tainui Ngāti Tipa, as well as Ngāti Whātua o Rake. So, I've been looking forward to this one for a while. So without further ado, over to you, Ehika.
Kia ora. Good to have you with us.
Kia ora, Corey.
Yep.
Kia ora,
And
Taika.
yeah. So what I'd like you to let us know is where you were born, and where you were raised and went to school in your early days. Yeah.
Also, my ngamahi to my parents, I only had my father that's alive, and his name is Bana Te Whakatoto Kukutai. He's from Port Waikato. My mother's Elsie Margaret Gage, and she spent a lot of time at Omaio Bay growing up. She grew up without her father, Herewini Gage. He was one of three brothers that went over to the war with our Māori battalion, and he was the only one that didn't come back. So he's buried over in Egypt. Both of my parents ended up joining the military. My dad joined the military because he was whāngaid out from a farming family at the port, and he was whāngaid out, and he just had a mentality about getting out of the region, getting out of kohanga, onewhiro, and he saw that escape joining the military, which he flourished.
So this is in Waikato? Yeah.
Yeah, that was that Waikato link, and he joined and went through to Waiuru. And one of his first postings was to Ngarawahia, to Hopu Hopu camp.
Oh, yeah.
With the Ordnance Corps. So the Ordnance are the supplies of the military.
Yeah.
And very soon they found out that he was a pretty logistical person. He had that organised mindset.
Yeah.
And he flew through the ranks as a consequence. My mum on the east coast, coastie woman, she could go and get the seafood, prepare the seafood, but she couldn't eat the seafood. And she had rotten teeth. And they had the military come round the coast, and they set up their hou water tents, I guess you'd say they'd call them now as an equivalent. And they said, we can do something about those teeth.
Wow.
So she was, they took her teeth out right then and there, and got her set up with the dentures, but now that I know what I know, they did that to a lot of people, Māori and Pākehā. They just saved a whole bunch of money down the track. So it wasn't uncommon. And Elsie Margaret Gage then joined the army, and she met Dad at Hopu Hopu.
Oh, yeah.
She's a great sportswoman, all coasties are, and she played all sports. She played softball, tennis-side, which was the precursor to basketball, and netball. So it took a long time for my dad to convince her to get out, because once you were married, you had to, in the RAC Corps, which is the women's corps, all women had to join one corps. And all women had one job, and that was to be a pay clerk or a ara clerk. But HQ was where she was at, and Dad went and did all the soldiering. And I was born in September, so she got out in about the January, February.
Oh, yeah.
Because she didn't want to. She wanted to get in another season, but Dad says no.
Right. And this was at Ngaruawahia still?
Yep, Ngaruawahia. And my grandparents, whare was at Te Kohanga, just short of the port. And Mum and Dad were married in the lounge room by my koro, my great koro Ngā Paka. And Ngā Paka Kukutai is buried up on Taupiri. We went to go visit my koro in March this year. And he was the religious advisor to Koroki to start, and then in his last years, he died in 67, and in his last years to the dame, or when she was very, very young, she was recognised as being the one that would take over. And then my koro Waka, he was with her for the rest of his life as minister in Māori Methodist. So you got the Pokai around the Puaha or Waikato, the Pokai sites around there. Then that was his job, was to be able to perform all the blessings, to marry people, to dispatch people, to christen people, and my koro was very, very well known around the area. I think out of all of his children, out of all of my koro's kids, my dad probably should have been the one that would have taken over as the next minister, but Dad found that thinking about that kind of life was a bit much for him, and because he's not the same. It's a very, very social, position, and I think that Dad didn't want to diminish my koro's mana by taking that role, and maybe he thought he wouldn't be as good as his old man. I tend to think he probably would have, and I know all of me and my siblings would have been great. So I'm eldest of 5. And the sister next, she's 11 months younger. Her name's Leanne. She's based over in WA. She's awesome, man. She went over to WA with nothing. She had 4 children. Her relationship broke up, but she's now, after a decade and a bit, just about at the top of the tree of BHP. And I've been over there and I've seen where she started with her children in the neighbourhood she lived in and where she lives now. So she's really done well, and we're really proud of her. Following Leanne is Dwayne, and Dwayne is 2 years younger than me, maybe 3. And Dwayne has found his Māori voice at the age of 50. And we're relying on him to be able to learn everything that he can, being the closest one to the port. And he helps his partner Diani. She's from Pirongia. And so he goes down there and he learns what he can from her marae. And he's on a real awesome journey. There's Te Tira Hoi, which is the journey from almost Taupō, but there's a little part of the Waikato River, and then you paddle all the way to the port. So it's a very, very long journey, but it's getting more and more popular. They used to just have one waka, now they've got a couple of waka, and my cousin Dennis is...
From where to where?
There's a little bit of not a creek, it's bigger than a creek. I'm not sure the exact location, but Taupō, all the way to the port. So the entire length of the Waikato.
How far is that?
Oh, I don't know.
Gee,
I have to go
that's
and
at
look
least 200 k's, eh?
It's a long way.
Yeah.
It's a very long way. So yeah, they've just recently completed that, and I'm pretty sure Te Tira Hoi has got a Facebook page where you can follow the latest of the journeys. So him and his partner Diani have just finished that.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so that's a massive feat, and they had to do some training. It's like going for that big hikoi over the maunga.
Yeah.
This one's the paddle on the awa. Coming next is my brother Greg, and Greg's the other military. So I joined the army, and then my younger brother Greg joined the army, but we joined the army at different times. And I was outgoing when he was incoming. And Greg had a really good army career. He trained those recruits out of Waiouru. He was at ATG, the army training group. And so he was one of those big mouth corporals.
Yeah.
Boss you around.
Oh, they just have to yell for the sake of yelling.
And he was good at it.
Yeah.
He's just got that demeanour. And you know, we talked earlier about, you know, someone's military just by the way they hold themselves.
Yeah.
And he's in a training role at the moment, but with a construction company. And bringing all of those disciplines that he learned. Like I guess we all learn it, especially us kids that are camp kids. We all kind of have that osmosis, learning by osmosis. And, but him particularly so. He's more military than my military father. So he knows a lot about his stuff, and when he got out, he actually did a couple of tours over to Afghanistan. He ran a pet op operation out there, and you know, in the desert heat and with, you know, the hot spots that were happening around him, and one thing he just loves to be able to do is to talk to people about his experience at Afghanistan, because it really does affect you. And you're just thankful that you're here. And then that brought the one day I said to him, "Oh man, you went down to the ice as well." That was when we were both younger. And I stayed. Well, I didn't have a choice to go, but I'm here in New Zealand. He's down there in the ice, and
yeah. So the ice would be Antarctica.
Yeah, Scott Base, and yeah, and
it's classic. Military always just call it the ice. Yeah.
I was trying to think, where are
Where's
we
the
talking
ice?
here?
Yeah.
Is that in Pukaki or Tekapo?
Yeah.
colder than Tekapo.
Ranfurly.
And they played a rugby test down there against the Americans. So they did the haka and they did all of that, and my brother had marked all of the field out with fluorescent paint, spray paint, and then they played their game.
Nice.
It wasn't full minutes but you know,
No.
the Americans were a bit soft and they got they got trampled over. But you know, he's one of the few soldiers that can refuel the aircraft in Scott Base and then go to Afghanistan and refuel tankers and you know, I think he enjoyed his experience.
Yeah.
But I'm glad he's back home now. He's raising his family up in Tamaki Makaurau, and he's totally focused on upskilling, and then 9 years from me down to my baby sister, and Jacinda is in Tauranga, and she's the old head of our family. She may be the youngest, but she tells us what to do. She keeps us all in line. She'll give me a ring and say, "Hey sis, this is what's happening." I go, "Yep, go for it." Our one aim is, since our mother passed away 26 years ago, that we're just there to look after our dad.
Yep.
And our dad's in a cool relationship with his partner of nearly 20 years.
Wow.
And and they just hang out. He's in a retirement village. He goes
Nice.
he goes and hits up all those fellas on the bowling green. He's like a bowling green shark. He goes over there, "Oh, you want to play bowls?" And he's got this crook hip and he's walking around with his toko. "Oh, you want to play bowls?" "Oh, yeah, let's go. And cleans them all up.
Far out.
Yeah,
fight.
he loves music. He's a DJ. I hooked him up on Spotify when Spotify first came out. So I added him to my family plan, and downloads all of his songs, and he's got together a little radio station in Tauranga, and I think he should try, now that he's moved to Hamilton, Kirikiriroa, that he should give it another go, because he was pretty good.
Cool.
So that's our whānau. That's my immediates.
There's 9 years from the youngest to the oldest?
Yeah, to the oldest, yep.
Yeah, good spread. And so through hearing the story, I would assume that every single one of you have been brought up as military kids?
Yes,
Would that be
yeah.
fair?
Yeah, we had a whare, my dad, do you know Sylvia Park in Auckland?
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't always a shopping centre.
No, yeah. It was just a big empty, they were like prefab buildings. They looked like a military
They were.
buildings.
Military stores.
There you go. Yeah.
They were military stores, and that was our playground, and our dad used to run that, and it was full of Land Rovers, there were tyre stacks, there were, and all of those buildings, that was owned by the military. Then over in the corner was post office. So they had the great big cables like telecom, before it became telecom. And
yeah, that's right, yeah.
And so my mum used to run a smoko room over there for all of the post office guys and then all of the army guys, because first she used to just do scones. And then it was bacon and egg pie. And then it was like the bosses are going, oh, if you made, more kai, what would you make? And so I used to wag school and I'd go and help her. I used to go to Penrose High School.
Oh, yeah.
But they renamed that to One Tree Hill,
Oh, yeah.
Maunga Kia.
Maunga Kia, yep.
And so I'd wag school, I'd go and help her with the cook up, and then we would sell the goods over the... You can't do that now.
So, back in those days, so was your dad based at the Papakura camp? Or
Sylvia Park.
So that was a camp? Oh,
wow.
wow.
Well, we had an army living area, which was not far away, but there was a cul-de-sac, probably maybe about 5 or 6 k's away, and all of that was military housing.
Wow.
And because of his rank and because of the size of his whānau, he got the biggest house on the block, and so we had a four bedroom whare right on the corner, and then the rest were duplexes, two-story duplex, and we lived all around the cul-de-sac. So, and the southern motorway used to be
right alongside.
Yeah, right alongside.
Yeah.
Because my toy brothers used to go and chop all the toy and go and fire the motorbike. The spears out onto the motorway.
Yeah.
But we had our friends, like we had friends the same age. On our front lawn, that was our bull rush, touch rugby.
Wow.
4 Kukutai kids, because we're all the same age. Well, there's only, it goes, at the moment we're 57, 56, 55, 54.
Wow.
So,
And then the younger sisters.
2 sisters, 2 brothers, and the 2 sisters were harder than the 2 brothers. And I was the best tackler on the block. I took down the big guy. There's this guy in our neighbourhood that no one could tackle, and I just felt determined one day, and I took him down, and the whole street just went up.
Wow.
And it was
Cool.
times. But I didn't play, like in those days you didn't have organised touch rugby, you didn't have organised women's rugby.
Right.
And I feel like I might have gone to do something like that.
Of course, if it was like an organised club thing, probably, I used to live in Panmure, so I'm very familiar with that.
Well, that was our hood. Panmure, Friday night, we'd go out to dinner in Panmure.
Yeah, right.
There was a restaurant called Tony's Restaurant. It was like a family restaurant, family dining, pretty cheap eating. But army paydays were on a Thursday, and then our mum and dad used to take us all out every fortnight to Tony's.
Oh, awesome.
And Panmure Ellerslie.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so we did have a very active upbringing, and my siblings and I have been close all through all of that.
And so, how long was the family at Sylvia Park? Like, did your parents ever move to different camps, or?
Yeah, we did. So Sylvia Park was actually in my late teenage years, because I graduated sixth form then. But stepping back, there's also a little camp called Mangaroa, and Mangaroa is near Upper Hutt.
Oh, okay.
So Trentham camp was where Dad was first base when him and Mum first got married, and I was born in Pukekohe.
Okay.
But then Mum and Dad got married, then I was born, and then we moved straight to Trentham.
Oh, yeah, right.
And then my sister Leanne came. We were still in Trentham. The young families lived in a place called Hospital Block. They were very, very small units. And you had families on top of families. But they didn't have the big whares that they've got now.
Yeah, right.
So Hospital Block, Dwayne and Greg were born. Mum ended up having all of us 4 kids there. and then we got posted to Singapore. So I was five, and then my little brother was only a few months old when Dad took that posting.
Yeah.
And we landed over in Singapore, which was, a lot of military whānau did that. We weren't the first and we weren't the last, but the year that we got posted there, the English had pulled out of Singapore, which was significant because it halved the population. It just left the Kiwis and the Aussies. So we went to an Anzac school, and we lived in military housing again. We had Ama that used to come and help our parents, and our parents had a real social time in their lives. Dad worked, Mum stayed at home, played netball during the week. Like anywhere she could find a game of anything, softball, basketball, netball, she would go hunting for it, and then we would stay at home with the Amas or go to school. And then that was their beautiful social time.
Cool. And so how long was the posting to Singapore?
From 70 to 72.
Okay.
Yeah. So a good couple of years. Every tour of duty was 2 years long, and my dad used to look after a big Q store. The Q store would supply everything that they needed in the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
And of course, Singapore was the landing spot for R&R for our Kiwi soldiers.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the times my parents were hosting these young Māori men coming home just to connect up and our place became lots of parties.
The meeting place, meeting house.
I was going to say the marae.
Yeah,
There was the marae. There's photographs of people all over the house because we had quite a nice. Well, all of the houses over there were good, and Mum and Dad had a really good lifestyle and good friends around them, and we came home to New Zealand thinking we were Malaysian.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
of course.
We thought we were Malaysian, and because we were. We met a lot of cultures.
Yeah.
We had some Ama that were Indian, and Mum trusted one woman so much that me and my sister Leanne, we would go back to her village and spend time there. It was pretty good. I think we're very lucky to have nowadays it's pretty ordinary to be mixing with lots of cultures, but we didn't have that when we came home to New Zealand.
Did you remember much about your time over in Singapore?
Well, because I was 7 when I came back, and I'd grown up a hell of a lot. I probably had the being the boss of all of my siblings. Not knowing that Mum and Dad relied on me to be able to help out, and a lot of New Zealand Māori families have done that anyway. The oldest girl has bigger responsibilities, and I always talked about my sister being the golden girl. Yeah, and that was true. That just kind of like followed me. That sat with me on my shoulders. Not as a burden, but as a responsibility, which is an entirely different weight.
Yeah.
And just helping, just being that lieutenant for my parents was very important to me.
Do you remember much about your schooling there? I assume you were in sort of primary school over there as well?
Yeah, primary school. Very, very organised, but and of course my siblings were dotted throughout the school because it catered right up to my age down, and there wasn't really the freedom to be able to go and mix because there were breaks at different times. But I remember the school bus one day, and the school bus stops halfway to school, and we're wondering what's going on. Well, a python was going across the road, and they had to wait for it to slither its way, and it's taken up the whole road. And so I'll never forget that. And I know there used to be, a whole bunch of monkeys in the trees that were, at the entrance of our school, because it's Singapore. It's just their wildlife.
That's
and
the Ngeru and Kuri, right?
Aye.
That's their sheep walking around.
Yeah, they're just walking around and.
It's such a common story that, I've got lots of family that were in a very similar situation posted over there in Singapore, and their kids went through the kura there. Yeah. And even later, my first cousins, were born there and then all returned back. So, yeah.
Yeah, and look, we had a privileged life. You go over to Malaya, to the beaches, and we thought that was normal. And we didn't realise just, not until we looked back at the photographs and go, man, I wish I could remember all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, Mum and Dad were a pretty out there couple. There's photos of Dad looking like Elvis Presley, and my mum used to have her hair made up like right boom out here, looking very like in the nature of the 60s, 70s, and in hot pants. Going far out. I'd never be seen dead in one of those, but that was my mum. She was. They were a very popular couple. Very hospitable couple. So that carried on to when we arrived back into New Zealand, and we end up getting a whare this time, not going out of the hospital block and into a real house, but Justin, Phil and I took a trip through there without the kids, because we visited all of these houses that I lived in, and they're boxes. They're only 3-bedroom homes, but they're just so small. And I've taken photographs just to, send through to my siblings and say, we lived in this shithole.
Yeah. It's funny because I remember so many of my old houses when I was young, and when I've gone back to visit them, you're right, they're so small, and you're sitting there thinking, no, they were way bigger than that. I'm sure they were bigger than that.
They were. They've shrunk over time.
So when you finished school, was it an easy decision to join the military?
I think it was. I went to 2 secondary schools. There was One Tree Hill, or Penrose High School, and then my dad took a posting to Hopu Hopu Camp. So I left Auckland in the 6th form. Then I had to do a lot of things. A lot of the subjects that I was doing in Auckland, I couldn't transfer to Ngarawahia High School.
Yeah, right.
So when I was doing a PE course, and then I all of a sudden had to do it by correspondence, and because of the strictness of UE, and then of course they were also bringing in 6th form certificate.
Yeah, right.
Which was new. 6th form certificate, and then just that transition from one high school to another, I couldn't get enough accredited points to be able to fully pass UE.
Right.
So I opted to go back again. And and I still did some by correspondence, but the only problem is that you did have massive support in Auckland. You're working entirely alone. I had a bit of a off year in my late 6th form, and then on to the 7th form. So I knew I got into some really big trouble, and my mother's going, you should have been doing this when you're like 15, not frickin' 16, 17. So I got myself into a bit of a tight situation.
So what kind of trouble, Jackie? Care to elaborate?
Drinking and a little bit of drug taking. and some glue.
Oh, the old glue, eh?
I know.
Love it.
Bloody terrible.
Yeah.
But I think the attraction is that I was getting in, because we used to treat Tūranga Waiwai Marae as our home. Yeah. I was into kapahaka. We were all into kapahaka. We used to do a lot of pōwhiri there. In fact, we'd be doing our normal schooling in at Ngaruahi High School and then get the shout out. We're off to the marae, and we would have to go and do a pōwhiri there and go and sing some waiata, and so I really enjoyed that. And then on the weekends, I tell you, if you'd have been born and raised in Ngaruahi, that's why you don't ever come out of Ngaruahi. So we started to get dally into that side, and then Mum, we're just going to netball practice, basketball, and then you go and do something else. So we I worked for it before I left school in the 7th form. I couldn't see myself.
Did you complete 7th form? Or
I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't. I did 2nd year 6th, and then I got enough qualifications to join the military, in which they wanted me to do officer cadet school. But talking to Dad, who was still serving soldier, he was a warrant officer 1st class, and I would have been his superior.
Superior, yeah.
Yeah, it was. I'm looking at my father going, "Oh, Dad,
that shouldn't matter, Dad. Come on, Dad."
I know.
So I've got a bit of a question. So you needed qualifications to get into the army?
Depending on what trade or what area you went into.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought it was just, there's the name, sign there and you're in. Yeah.
Well, you had to pass the RFL.
Yeah.
So you had to have that healthy body.
Yeah.
Talk
Fitness.
about mental maturity. I had none. Now that I know what I know, and I have a look at this mindset of I was just about to turn 18 when I started my basic training, and I'd had this boyfriend, and I was thinking, I don't want a boyfriend, but I've got this boyfriend, and I knew in my heart that I wasn't going to be staying there, and as soon as I jumped on that bus, I knew I wasn't going back to Ngaruahi, and yeah, so I had a lot of people that were backing up. I just had the fella that helped me pass my RFL at that stage. His name was Phil Waters. He just reached out to me this year and said, "Oh my gosh, I've just seen you on Facebook." So it's good to be able to have people that remember and that supported me getting in there. But mentally mature, no, I wasn't ready for it. I might have been raised in the military, but it certainly doesn't give you the common sense and the streetwise. And you're in a little bubble. You've got people doing things for you, and you're in a bit of a little bubble.
Yeah.
It was a very, very enlightening time, but well worth it.
Yep.
Still got mates.
Yeah.
We're all the same age. We're doing different things with our lives, but we still consider ourselves, best mates. And
So what role did you go into the army as?
supplier.
Supplier, yeah.
Yep. So my first posting, you go down to Trentham Camp, which is the base supply battalion, where you go and learn all the level 1 versions of your job.
Yeah.
And my first posting out of there was to Waiuru Camp, and I used to fit out all of the recruits. It was crack up.
Oh, you'd fit them out.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, of course.
I'd
right.
have to take their measurements.
Yeah, right. I remember that.
And then my boss used to stand there and go, "She's taking your inner thigh measurement," and everyone's going,
That was the coolest thing.
"Don't get nervous. She's seen bigger than yours."
That was the coolest thing. I remember getting my uniform for the first time.
Yeah.
I'm getting everything, like you got all your
You got everything from your webbing through to your
through
so you
to
got
the
your field
SDs,
kits, you got your SDs, you got your
just
dinner, your
regular,
number ones,
yeah.
and then your portai.
Yep. Our portai were ugly.
Webbing is it clicks here, clicks over your shoulders, and then you can have your
you got to hook all your stuff.
all your
onto
stuff. You might even have some
like your Batman utility
dummy
belt.
grenades. You could have your dummy grenades hooked over here.
Yeah.
You'd have your weapons either side. You'd have your
Your
SLR
water
or your M16 hooked over there.
Ooh.
You'd have to carry
You have to carry
everything.
it all, eh? Yeah. So you had SLRs when you joined? Or
Yeah, I handled them, but I didn't fire them live. No, women had to handle the M16s.
Oh, really?
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah, we used to have to learn to strip all of that down, but we
Yeah.
weren't allowed to fire them.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Man.
we were allowed to fire 3 rounds of a SLR, self-loading rifle, but that was only 3 shots, and if
Wow.
you miss the target, then that's your 3 shots down. We weren't allowed to throw real grenades. We had to throw dummies, but dummies give up. Even they're the same effect.
Yeah.
If you hadn't have told us that they were dummies, we wouldn't have known.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is fair enough. You got to know that it's dangerous, right? So.
Yeah, and at the end of your basic training, I think you have two sessions in the pit, and you get like 2 grenades to throw in each session. So you just got to make sure it gets out of that hut.
Man, so what?
Over the wall.
Yeah. What year would have been your basic?
My 82,
Wow.
83.
Because I did mine in 90, and the women were fully doing everything that we did.
Yep.
So they got, they had to carry the SLRs around, we had to go to the range and shoot them. And, I mean, as a guy, and especially straight out of school, that's probably the best part of it. You're like, you hit the range and you can shoot some targets, but man, the girls didn't like it, eh? I mean, I shouldn't say all of them. There's a subset of women who just, they couldn't, you could see them shaking when it was to come time to pull the trigger. So
I think that the girls that I joined up with, we would have been all up for it.
Yeah,
but
I bet.
it wasn't an option. And
wow, I didn't realise that.
yeah. But being on the range, we could fire live rounds there. No worries. You had to make you had to have tight groupings, and you had to be able to move on to the next stage.
Nice.
We all wanted to move on.
Yeah.
No one wanted to be left behind.
Yeah.
But yeah, on my basic, like a few of the men did struggle. We had one fella that went down with he stopped eating. He was just like, he couldn't eat. He was probably over about a month. He just nearly wasted away. And
Wow.
I'm kind of hoping that the people that were looking out for him got him in time before it got too bad. Yeah, we had some butch girls in our.
I bet.
We did. We had some going to the shower.
Yeah.
And then we had like real pretty princesses that were just hard as nails.
Yeah.
And I had one girl. Her name was Sally, and you kind of looked at her and she's going, "Oh, what are you doing here, honey?" But she was harder than some of the boys. She loved it, and she made an awesome soldier and an awesome mate.
Can you remember if you lost a lot of people on basic training?
Yeah, and I was close to being one of them, only because I came from a military family, and a lot of people knew my dad,
Yeah,
and so
right.
they
Got a
wanted
lot
to
of
make
pressure.
things. Yeah, they wanted to make things really hard. But I had an ally. Her name was Sergeant Rice, and she trained under my dad when we were at Hopu, and she loved him, and she'd made a promise that she would look out for me, and so she come into the room and she'd go, "Get your bed space cleaned up right now, because someone's coming through to come and have a look."
Oh, nice.
And so everyone would
nice.
go and hustle my bed space and make my bed up, and I'd be standing there like an angel, and they'd done it in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'd be standing there going, "Thank you,"
Oh.
because otherwise I'd be running up and down that street.
That stuff was hoo-ha to me, man. I was over it in a hurry, eh? Because you'd like scrub every little inch of your bed space.
Yeah.
And they come through with a glove, and they'll still find a bit of fucking dust. And
Yeah,
you're like,
that's it.
I scrubbed that little piece that you're wiping your finger with. And so I realised it was just like a game where they could yell at you.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and I might have just about laughed once, and it was just a nervous thing, and come on, give me push-ups. I'm having to do push-ups, and then you can go run over there and come back, and you better be back here in this amount of time. I'm going, oh flip.
Were you a good girl during your time?
I was trying, but
what I mean is, did you ever come up on charge at all?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. But that wasn't until I got to my first posting, which is Trentham, and I would have got there because my BASIC was over a Christmas period, so we got to go home. We started in the August, and then we went right through, and then at the beginning of the year we had a week off because they had the OCS that were passing out, and there was also another BASIC that was coming in. So we were a week delayed for our passing out parade, and unfortunately, there was also a camp that was being run at the same time that was in the Ordnance Corps, and Dad had come through from Hopu Hopu, and he'd come through to be, witness to my passing out parade. That was his main priority. However, they'd done an all-terrain forklift driver's course over Tank Hill in Waiuru. It's famous for its frickin'...
Oh, okay.
And then you'd have to run up there.
Oh.
And so they sent this forklift over there, and it rolled, and one of his boys was killed.
Oh,
and that was on the night that I passed out. So there was a little bit of, bit
of mamai.
Yeah. And Mac, who got killed, I knew him.
Oh,
he
way.
was at Hopu Hopu when I'm a young teenager, and so we all had a connection to him, and we still talk about him. I've got my mate Jo, who she was a soldier, so she'd already been in for 6 months by the time I passed out and got posted to the same camp as her, and she was Mac's best mate. So and over the years we've kept in touch, me and Jo, and we have a bit of a corridor about it, and and we once we passed out and got posted to Trentham, that's where the real jealousy of my dad's position came out. And I had one sergeant that was a real arsehole, and we didn't hit it off. As soon as we met each other, we did not hit it off. So if Jackie went to lunch without her ID card and he was on orderly sergeant, where's your ID card? Oh, it's not here. So then I'll be going to an orderly room. So from the February through to when I got posted in the December, I'd done 159 days on charge.
That's bullshit.
Over that whole time. But every time I went up on charge, first time my mum sent me flowers and she'd go, oh, poor thing. And then after a while, it was just like nothing. And then my dad being battalion, not BSM, he was like the warrant officer in charge of the whole depot.
Wow.
And so I'm standing in a parade situation. He's walking past me, and he said, "In my office." So once you get off the parade ground, and I'm marching to his office, and I'm standing there, and he's sitting behind his desk with his blimmin' peak cap on, and he's looking pissed off as all hell, and I'm going, but that, don't you call me? Oh, but sir, but sir, it wasn't my fault. He says, I just need you to be strong. There are people in this unit that don't want you to do well, and you just need to keep a good attitude. So you just had to take it. But at Trentham Camp, there was a Toyota car factory, like maybe 2.5 k's away. That became my running track, because they would say, get back here, go and touch the bloody sign at Toyota and come back, and then go get changed. And change parades, have you heard of a change parade?
Yeah, we used to do them occasionally. God, that were...
Well, tell Tyke all about it.
What's a change parade?
Well, we used to do them on charge, where they just make you go and change into a different uniform.
Okay,
And they'd give you like 5 minutes or something, so you could go from DPMs to SDs or something, and you just be packing yourself the whole
all
time.
All your PT kit.
Yeah,
They'd be
PT,
sitting.
yeah.
They'd be sitting there with the clock.
Yeah.
So all my mates back in our barracks, I'd be running back there. What do you need? And I'd say, I need this, and I'd be chucking my clothes off. They'd be chucking the clothes on, and
See, that used to happen a lot too, because on charge there's only like 1 or 2 or 3 of you on charge at the time. So depending on how close you are with the rest of the group, they're trying to help you out. They're there to sort of give you your stuff, you know, get you changed.
But you're in the hands of the orderly sergeant from 4 o'clock to 9 o'clock. So
Doing
for
all sorts
those
of shit.
hours, you're at his mercy. But I used to enjoy scrubbing the squash court, getting all the black marks off the wall. Used to love that.
One guy made us cut grass with
the scissors?
with nail clippers.
On nail clippers.
Fucking idiot.
And then the brass in the HQ. Go and buff up all that brass.
Well, those ones made sense, you know, because at least you were trying to make something look nice.
Beautiful.
Yeah. But when you're doing dumb things like digging holes and stuff.
Yeah, and then filling them back in again.
Man, you guys had some fun.
I was defiant. I hated the military. Well, I didn't know why I joined it, because I hated being told what to do.
And I guess with you know, I had a loyalty to my old man, and because you know he's an awesome guy, and he had more lovers than haters, and that's who we had to kind of like get him behind. Even all of my mates, they loved Mr. Kukutai. They, you know, and I used to have a mate, Mary, who drove the ration truck. And every Friday, if we decided we're going to have an in-night in our room, all of a sudden the ration truck would pull up at our barracks, and crayfish and, you know, trays of eggs, and we'd have a mean cook-up, and all the boys would come over from the other barracks if they knew that we were doing that, and we would just have some whanaungatanga time, and Live Aid. Do you remember Live Aid? We did that one weekend.
Live Aid.
Is
that their concert?
Bob
Geldof concert.
We all gathered in our barrack room and had the whole weekend.
Wicked.
Just cooking and watching that. It was pretty awesome. So.
So we're sort of got to scoot along in time at the moment. Sorry for holding us up with a big military conversation. I love it.
It's a history lesson for me, to be honest. It's awesome. Yeah.
But let's sort of move along a little bit, because we want to know kind of eventually if it happened before or after. So how did Jackie meet Phil?
Well, I didn't meet Phil to start with.
Okay.
I used to have a real good buddy. His name was Tony, and we were basketball fans. So him and I used to hang out. We were best mates. The worst thing we did was he thought he had a crush on me, and I was just going, whatever. And then I ended up pregnant with my oldest son, Jordan. So Jordan comes along, and I decide to take maternity leave, and lucky my dad, because we were in the same unit, Mum and Dad had a military house, so I did my posting to Waiouru and at the clothing store. I did most of my pregnancy there in Waiouru. I'd lived with a military family that I knew from Hopu Hopu, and Paul and Bev looked after me until I was down to my last 4 weeks, and then I went home to Mum and Dad at Trentham. So Jordan was born at Elderslie Hospital in Upper Hutt, and me and George, I took that leave. I bonded with my son. Got used to the idea that I'd made the decision that Tony and I weren't going to make it as a couple. We're just too good friends, and then I just got back into the military when he was about 10 months old.
Okay.
And Tony and I had just been to a lawyer's just to go and do the formalities around Jordan and his care.
Yeah.
And I went to the bar that night. That was my welcome back to work thing. And Dad was at home on leave, so he looked after Jordan. And I went to the bar and I met this guy, and I told him, I says, I'm just back off maternity leave. He says, I've actually met you. I'm going, I've been to a ball In ordnance in the military, had a nickname, the Spoonies.
Okay.
I know. So we had a Spoonies ball. So the guys from Waiuru, the guys from Trentham, and just from all that lower North Island, we hosted it.
Yeah.
And Phil was actually our barman.
Oh, okay.
So he was the dude that was feeding me up on on rum and whatever, and then I hadn't come back to work. He thought I was a civvy, and just turned up at this. He knew it was an ordnance function, but he didn't know that I was on maternity leave.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day I end up in a parade marching past they were the Spanners, we were the Spoonies. And so I end up marching past him at a medical, going and do my entry back into the military and do my medical. And he was in there and he saw me and recognised me, and then the following Friday saw me at the pub in our Baggies bar. That's for all the young soldiers, sappers, engineers, and us young ones, and then he came up and said, he knew my brother-in-law, so we started a conversation.
And so was it pretty much an instant kind of thing, or was there a bit of chasing going on, or did you pretty much just from that point on?
Yeah, I think there was a bit of chasing, but I was pretty intent on learning. I felt like I'd missed out in the months being away on, and I've been posted to a new unit, which dealt with.
So you want to live a little bit first.
Yeah, and it was an exciting new unit. Have you heard of a Minimi?
Minimi.
So it's basically it looks like a rifle, but it's got a funny shaped stock.
Oh yeah.
So instead of a long stock, it's actually cut in half.
Okay.
And it actually sits up. The stock's about that kind of like curves into your shoulder.
Yep.
And that was new to the New Zealand Army and me, and there was only two of us on that project, and we got to bring them in, and yeah, it was pretty cool. Our boys did a haka with it, so they saw the shape of it and says, we can turn this into something, and they performed it for Sir Paul Reeve.
Oh yeah.
He came down to Trentham, and we were with the haka party, and our boys did the haka with the Minimi.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, were you guys together in the army at the same time, or
Yep.
or did you make a decision, or when did you make a decision to leave, and did you both leave together?
Phil actually got posted up to Papakura, and that was at the time that I decided to get out.
Oh yeah.
So we had a baby.
Of course. I'm sure there's so much that goes on in between all this.
Yeah, we did. We had a baby, and so Josh was born, and then that was when I decided I didn't want to be a mother and raise two kids in the army, and so.
How long had you been in at that point?
So Josh was born in '88, and so I joined in 7 years.
Oh yeah.
6-7 years, with that break in the middle.
Yeah.
And so Josh was probably about a year old when we made the move up to Papakura. It coincided with my dad getting out of the army.
Mm-hmm.
Both him and I got out of the army at the same time, on the same year. And I had a bigger send-off than he did.
It's crazy.
Oh.
And then Mum and Dad bought a house at Kirikiriroa, so we moved from Wellington up there. And then I jumped on to Papakura, where Phil was posted up there, and we got a flat, and my other Kukutai relatives were up there. One's with the Black Power, one's with the Mongrel Mob, and they were my age, so I felt like I was going to the whānau, and I had quite a number of my dad's brothers that lived in Papakura, so it was a real cool move for me.
Yep.
And Phil was playing rugby for Counties Army, and then playing over there with counties as well. So he enjoyed his rugby time there. We had the 2 boys, and I think that was probably the funnest year we had, was in our first whare. And then we got posted to Burnham.
Oh yeah. Okay, so that's what brought you to the South Island.
I bought a house first, just with my ex gratia payment, leaving the military. I decided not to waste it. So I bought a whare in Ngāruahia, $55,000. Shared a 1/4 acre with another, there's 4 of us on that property, so very small, very, very, good for us. Good for us, good start. Mum and Dad were in Hamilton, and Phil could come down from Papakura whenever he liked. So I had that little bit of independence.
So why Burnham? Like, that seems to be quite a departure from everywhere else you've been.
He was an engineer. Phil was he was with EME, Rural Electrical Mechanical Engineers, and then there was a position down there that was part of his trade, because he was still learning his trade. Yeah. And so he came home one day and he said, "Got a chance to go. Do you want to come?" And you know how some Māori families whāngai the eldest. My mum really wanted to whāngai Jordan.
Yeah, right.
And I'd said, if I come down, it's all of us. And he says, yeah, it's all of us. We go together. So breaking that news to Mum and Dad was a bit tough, but it had to be made, because Jordan was a big part of me, and if Phil wanted me, he had to have me, Jordan, and Josh. Yeah, yeah. So it was and going south, I'd never been to the South Island before. I didn't know about Cromwell at that stage, not until I'd met Phil. I didn't know about Queenstown until I met Phil. I felt a bit ignorant, and I'd been on a holiday, and when I got here to Central Otago, and I met my in-laws for the first time, that boyfriend quickly became my life partner. Yeah. So it was the whole package. His parents, father Irish, Maori, best father-in-law that I could ever dream of, and then my mother-in-law Anne, English heritage, born here in Tahuna, and they're just great. If it hadn't been for them, I think we still would have lasted, but we wouldn't have raised our family here. Yeah, we probably would have gone back north, even gone to Aussie, because lots of tradesmen were going to Australia. And one thing that Phil realised when he came home, because Tito was going through the Clyde Dam project, and boys that were his age were earning 3 times the money than what a soldier was. But the one thing that the soldiering gave him was soldiering experience, and just being dudes with other like-minded men. So he enjoyed his soldiering time.
And so now we get to how did you end up in? I'm assuming you first moved to Cromwell, not Queenstown. Would that be right? And so what was the decision that brought you guys to Cromwell?
Well, we landed in Burnham, and we just got south and in the same island as his parents, and we would go back when we could, have the long weekend, and next minute his unit's being transferred back to Papakura.
Oh, right.
And he said, listen, post me anywhere, post me to the regiment, post me anywhere, but I'm not going back to Papakura. Yeah. And they just said, if something comes up, and we talked about it. I said, listen, if that's when he said to me, where in the world do you want to bring up the children? And I said, Cromwell. And
cool, that's a big call.
Yeah. And I felt enamoured to be able to make that decision, because of the relationships that I'd struck with his parents, and even even 20 years later, my mother-in-law is telling me thank you for choosing us, and knowing that by making that decision, I was taking the boys out of the North Island aspect of it, and from where my mum and dad were, but no regrets.
Yeah.
No regrets.
Yeah.
The children have thrived here. Although those two boys are now raising their whānau overseas, but Jordan and Josh, when we arrived here, they were 5 and 4. So
they had a little bit of military life as well.
They experienced a little bit of the military life. We lived in Burnham Camp, and I remember the year of the blizzard. I'm not sure what year it was. Might have been 91.
It was 91. Because I was in Wigram at the same time.
Oh,
yeah. It was
and all
snow.
of our forces were out on, out trying to help all those Christchurch families.
Right. That's right.
Yeah, so Phil was out there doing that, and we were at home and I remember walking through the snowdrift to get to the AGI. Do you know what the AGI is, eh?
No.
Those are the military dairies.
Whereabouts?
Allied Garrison AGI.
Whereabouts?
In all the military bases,
Oh,
even the armies.
Right.
If you got the shop that sells the
we just called it a shop. I didn't know it had a name.
It was the AGI.
The canteen.
That's what happens when you're in the military for 5 minutes.
I know. I did 5 years, man, but I couldn't wait to get out of there. Yeah. But military wasn't for me. We
were walking through the snowdrift. It was up to my hips, and my sons are walking in behind me. I haven't seen one like that, even living here.
No. That was a big one. It snowed at Brighton Beach, I remember, because I used to surf all the time out there. So it was the first time I'd ever seen snow, like thick snow at the beach.
It was quite amazing. So we had to do without Phil for almost a week while they went and did all of their.
I remember the whole base got shut down, pretty much. There was just no point in doing anything. So I was on the bar committee, so we just opened the bar. Opened the bar and just had a big party, eh?
The bar has a committee?
Yeah. You had to have a committee.
Spoken like a true singly.
Oh, yeah. No, man. Well, Baggies Bar, eh? We were all about the Baggies Bar. Like, shots were 35 cents at the time. A pint was like $1.20.
And we used to, in Trentham, we used to be able to walk through to the AGI, which was connected to our Garrison Club, go and buy bottles of Baileys for like $12, and then take them into the bar, chuck them under our seats, and drink the Baileys.
Because the drinks were 35 cents.
Oh, you get shit-faced, man. It was funny, because everyone knew when you worked the bar, if you saw civvies, you would charge them double. Because double was still like $1 a shot.
But then we used to go to Tarapa.
Yeah.
And they'd be cheaper than our bar.
Yeah.
At Hopu Hopu.
Yeah,
we go to Tarapa Air Base.
Well, we get the Burnham guys would always come out to our Baggies Bar. It's so funny, because they'd
Wigram.
Wigram. And they'd only last 1 or 2 or 3 weeks before they get in a punch-up. All of the army guys would get banned from Baggies for like however long, 6 months. And as soon as the ban got lifted, within 1, 2, 3 weeks, they were banned again. It was just a cycle of getting banned. And it's funny, because I knew a lot of the army boys because they used to do like PDI training. They did it at Wigram. Fireman training they did at Wigram. So there was a lot of cross services come through Wigram.
All those PTIs, man. They got the best hair product.
Oh, yeah, man.
They got the smelliest.
Oh, they're like so smooth, eh? These dudes. But some of them got no game though, eh? You'd see them trying to pick up, and you're like, bro, come on, man. So, but we'd see all these guys, and and then we knew some of the grunts as well. They would come out, because half of them were from the East Coast. So they'd come out, and they always used to go on about our women in the Air Force. You got some hot chicks in the Air Force. And we hated them, eh? We were like, oh, God, no, we're off to town to, look at the civvy girls. We're like, we'll leave those ones for the army boys.
These military girls are too staunch.
Yeah, I think that's what it was, Because
Well, it's either too staunch or too easy.
yeah,
One or the other.
well, they're pretty hard, Some of the army girls, but the Air Force girls are nice. Yeah, they're nice girls.
Classy. Oh man.
Yeah, we don't take any shit, but
Nah.
but no. That inter what do you call it? Services.
Inter-services thing.
That inter-services rivalry. Yeah.
Well, I mean, for me, I used to get called all the names, because so many of my rallies were mostly in the army, and most of them were infantry. So, whenever they saw me, they were just like, you fucking poofter.
Yeah.
They're like, you couldn't, and they'll do something that you guys were doing exercise, but you can't dig out a foxhole and put a fucking bivvy over it, and I'm like, why the hell would I want to do that? So they come up with all these military things, like, you'd never be able to do X, Y, Z.
Someone had to go to the Air Force.
I don't want to do any of that.
We serve the people, we serve each other, and those all of the Navy, Army, military, police, that's all the combined services. They all join together under that one roof.
Well, you're supposed to, but man, there was so much rivalry, Yeah, especially rugby and league. I actually made the Air Force rugby league team one year, and I didn't want to go out on the field, I was like, oh no, you guys keep that. Because they were taking each other's heads off, I was like, fuck, I think I bit off too much on this game.
Let me keep the jersey.
Yeah. Just let me like sit in the corner of the photo, and then that's it. I'm like, come on, coach, don't put me on.
Yeah, well, Phil, when we were posted to Burnham, he made the engineers, which isn't his core. He's EME, but he went into this tournament that we hosted, and by the end of the tournament, he was one of the top props.
Yeah.
So that was the best year he had in rugby. While we were there, I had to learn how to drive, because we didn't need to when we were in the military, because we had couriers that took us everywhere. Dad only had Land Rovers that came up the driveway, and we didn't have a family vehicle. Not many people had their own cars. And Phil had to teach me how to drive, because he was going to the UK on a rugby trip, and he was away for a month.
Yeah.
So that was out of Burnham, and it was a good trip for him to have at that stage, because even though he was so young, he had a family at home, and we scraped to be able to get together the putia for him to go.
Yeah.
And he went with my blessing, because where else would he get a chance to be able to go tour? And even now he still speaks really highly of that trip away with his mates. And yep, and I just stayed at home, and I had to work. I worked as a nurse's aide in a Presbyterian support place, home in Christchurch at Ilam, and I needed to get myself in and out so I learned to drive with my two boys in the back with no seatbelts and a Mini Clubman. And I just drove between Burnham Camp and Lincoln. It's probably about 15 k's.
Yeah.
And you cross the state highway, and then you did a turn left, and you just went straight. No turns, no nothing.
No.
I got my license when I was 26. And I've probably driven, with the jobs that I've had subsequently, I've driven a lot of Ks, as if I'd had my license when I was 16.
Yeah. So we're quite a bit over time at the moment, so I thought...
where did it go?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've only just landed you in Queenstown, but so we'll probably get you back at another time to go through all the stuff that you've been going through since you got to Queenstown, especially around the basketball as well, and all your business stuff as well. So we've got so much more to talk about, eh? But yeah, we'll probably have to leave that for part 2.
Yeah.
And I guess I'll throw it over to you, Hika, for the next part.
Yeah, cool. So, as you know, we have our quickfire questions. So, the first question I've got is one piece of advice you would give your 21-year-old self.
Well, 21, I didn't have a 21st because I had my baby. Me and Jordan were a duo then, and so you succumbed that. But in that time, it was like, don't be so scared. But I had made a couple of brave decisions to go it alone to start off with, but there was still plenty that I was scared of that I think might have just held me back. And I know everything happens for a reason, but to have that same brave face as a 56-year-old as you were a 21-year-old, then maybe you'll accelerate yourself a bit further.
Yeah, agree.
And to have like conversations with your elders. You don't pay attention to anything that anyone is saying when you're 21.
Yeah, I missed all that.
And I wish that I'd like, not so much listen to my nanny, but definitely listen to my mum. She's been gone for 26 years, and I'd give anything to be able to have her sitting beside me and say, when I told you that, that's what I meant.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So that'd be cool.
Cool. Next one is, what was your favourite age?
My 50s.
Yeah.
Far out. Arriving at 50 was amazing. My whānau went in, my present for my 50th birthday was my tamoko, and they had big input into that. It was just like everyone was just thankful that I got there, thankful for everything leading up to that point. When I turned 50, I only had 2 more teenagers to get out of the house, and you just walk with purpose, and you've got, I think you've had a whole life to live, and you take responsibility for that. And you know what? I wasn't fighting so much with my hubby.
Oh, okay. You both calmed down a bit.
Yeah, just chill the fuck down.
Don't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah. And I guess both of us look at each other through the lens of a 50-year-old, and we can see the influence that we've had on each other, and it's not so much that I'm trying to be like Phil, but there's a whole heap of things that I wish I could do just like Phil does, and I don't know whether he thinks the same about me.
Well, we'll find out, because we'll have to get him on, and
yeah, absolutely.
He can enlighten us. Maybe.
Yeah, we'll hear the other side of the story. Say.
Cool, awesome. One quote, mantra, whakatauki, or saying that you like to try and live by.
Well, I always used to get in trouble. So when I found myself at that point, I was thinking, you're already in trouble, you might as well go all the way. So it's like, go hard or go home.
Yeah,
go hard or go home. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just about doing things. It's if I found myself in trouble, I was trying to make a good thing out of it.
Yep.
Because I knew my parents would be disappointed or something, but I'd still try and make something good come out of it. Yeah. And I like to do things. I mean, I'm not very good at planning things. I like to respond.
Just do it. Yeah.
Respond and then just figure it out and say yes first, which is really frustrating for Phil. Like he likes his considered approach where I go, yeah, we'll do it. And then he's the voice of reality.
Yeah.
But I try and go as far as I can.
Cool. Awesome. Favourite place in the world?
I've got 2 favourite places, to be honest.
Yep.
And those are over in China with my son Josh. And just not being scared of China. It's not an unknown quantity to me anymore, but to go and look at his neighbourhood and see where he hangs out and meet the people that influence him, and his partner Paula and my two moko boys over there. It's kind of cool. And then my son Jordan in Perth, and finding out exactly the same thing, his hood. My granddaughter Riley, who come Wednesday, I would have been a grandmother for 13 years. And her brother Brooklyn, and I've got a 4-year-old, their youngest sister Peyton. So hanging out with whānau wherever they are around the world. And then I've got the other 3 kids here in Tahuna. So I consider myself very lucky. Very lucky.
Awesome.
Cool.
And 3 people you can invite for dinner. Any 3 people?
LeBron James.
Yep.
I think he's really interesting.
Yeah.
I think he's
Jordan,
polarising. I'd go LeBron James over Jordan only because, and don't worry, everyone's grown up loving Mike, and but LeBron's just got an extra special and just the extra special X factor. And Stephen Adams would be the next one, just for that homeboy feel.
Nice.
And, I was with him
Steve-o.
when he came to Whakatipu High School, and my youngest got to haka him into the auditorium, but he was just so real. And Willie Apiata was with him, so just getting that tautoko from Willie and learning all about his Māori side. Steve is just such a great personality. And then my mum would enjoy both of them because she was a basketball fan, and she played hard as. She was a menace, and she loved her sport right up until she did get sick and couldn't play anymore. So yeah, those are the 3.
Cool. And I've got a last question that I usually ask about the future, but because we've only sort of just touched on your story, I think we'll leave
come back to
that till we've
to
heard the full story, and then we can hear what the future holds for you. So.
Ka whai.
But other than that, ka nui te mihi kia koe whaia, thanks for coming in, joining us. It's been a privilege and an honour, especially to hear these military stories. It's been a bit of a history lesson for me. And to both of you, actually, your service is... has been a privilege to both of you serving your country.
I didn't do any service to my country.
It's absolutely appreciated. But other than that, Ihika, any closing thoughts?
No, just a big mihi to you. I'm sorry for hijacking this whole conversation in a military direction.
No, that was awesome though.
Yeah, it just... I couldn't help it, It was just reliving some of my own stuff as well, so it's good to hear your experiences. But no, it was such a great chat. Really look forward to part 2. Man, we could probably do it sooner rather than later, actually. Because this one's so fresh. Might as well just, continue the wave. And, ka nui te mihi kia koe.
Kia ora. And to you both, I think that this kaupapa and this vehicle is amazing. Listening to people explain their life and how you get here to where you are. We all commit to this whenua.
This place,
Yeah, we're committed for a reason. We're here for a reason, and for us to be connecting up like this is what's meant to happen in the future. So, ka pai.
Awesome.
Other than that, Itiwi, hit us a like, subscribe down at the bottom, and we'll catch you next time on The Chew. Mā te wā.
Mā te wā.